Okay, so Will, welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for January 8th, 2025. We'll follow our standard agenda of going through the issue that was generated in the TSC repo, which was issue 1670. Before we get started, are there any announcements that people would like to share? Okay, no announcements this week. The reminder to nominate people for the contributor spotlight, regular. And then on to the CPC and board meeting updates. I think, Matteo, any updates on that front?
The important part is also on the agenda, I think, is the the GitHub security fund.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
that's the update.
We have issue to discuss. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so let's move on to the issues tagged for the agenda, and there's a few we wanted to cover first. The first one is the OpenJS Foundation Summit, which is the Node.js Collaborator Summit for 2025. I don't know who wants to lead the discussion on that.
I can give an overview of the survey
Sounds good.
results. Let me share the screen. Let me see. How do I? So here are the results. I think we have a more promising result compared to the last one that we got for the London summit. So probably we'll have a pretty good turnout this time. We have 21 people who said they'll come with sort of a certainty. And then overall we got 30 responses, but there are a few that are depending on other stuff. And I did some quick calculations. I think if we want to move forward, we will need to request around 20,000 USD budget from the travel fund. Not sure how much we can get from the budget. If we want everyone who are willing to come to come. And so all in all, looks pretty promising. I guess we should do it. Any comments? And also on the date, it looks like April 1 to 2 is better than other dates. So, Matteo?
The fundamental question for us, okay, is like looking at the travel fund, okay, the 20K, it's high. So, and if we plan to have a second one, okay, together with JSConf, JSConf EU, sorry, JSConf US in North America, that will be tricky. Okay, I am not convinced that we would get as much funding for that after this. Okay, like it's roughly this is a third of the Collaborator Summit budget. Okay, which is I think it's 60K. So it's a little bit high. Okay, just to clarify to mention. Okay.
Do we know how much budget we have for the, I don't know, first quarter or first half of the year?
I can get you the number. Just a second.
I guess we should check whether it's within budget. If it's within budget, there's no reason to not spend the budget.
No, absolutely. But it's not fully for Node. It's for all the projects. Okay. But frankly, I
Yes, the other question, I can't remember, Matteo, whether we used the full budget from last year.
It's not carryover. It's not a carryover. But yes,
Regardless, it would
yes,
be
it was mostly used. It was mostly fully. It was fully booked, okay, but not fully used. So the way it works is people request a certain amount of money, okay, then people send the invoices, they send the reimbursement request. Okay. So there is a delta between the amount of money that is requested and the amount of money that is disbursed. Okay. Which is typically lower than the amount of money being asked. Okay. So this is the TLDR of it. Michael, can you upgrade Paolo? Sorry, he's waiting.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's the gist. So it was fully booked, but it was not fully consumed, but it was fully booked last year. So I'm okay with it. I'm just saying if it goes worst case and we get 10 people at 2,000 or something like that, then it's a problem. Okay, it might end up being a problem, but for the second half, for the one on the second half of the year, if we want to do it, because we might decide to do it, because I expect a lot of people from Europe will ask, like the 2,000 are people from the US asking the money, the other ones are the people from the EU asking the funds. Okay, so it really depends on that. Anyway, sorry for.
So has anybody got thoughts on that in terms of like, we concerned about potentially not having as much travel for the second one versus the first one?
I guess we'll need some kind of upper limit of the budget we can request before we, think about how to organize the travel funds. Because right now there's it's not like we're going to ask for 20,000. It's more like this will be the upper limit
Yeah.
of the maximum amount that we need to request. Because like in the survey, we ask for if you need budget, what's the maximum, the range and the maximum, and we calculate based on the maximum, but it's not necessary that we're going to use actually 20,000, even though that might be. But I think except one maybe transatlantic travel, the upper limit will be 80,000. And that would be like the upper limit. So so to make a decision or like to have a better idea of whether the budget match will need a limit of budget we can request. And because it's going to be spread out among many different like at least I think 13, 12 individuals, it can vary a lot. So it'd be useful to have some idea from the cross project council about how much can we actually get, and I guess make some guidelines on how to request the budget. But I guess even for those who do not need the budget to come, there are already enough people who do not need budget to come.
Right. We might want to divorce those. Like if that's the case, it's like there's enough people who, even if it wasn't using the travel fund, that we would have a good collaborator summit, then that would make it easier to say, let's just plan for it and then go from there, right? And yeah, Matteo's showing the scoring rubric. I think the main thing that's in the current rubric that would impact people is like I can't remember if it ended up being like, I don't think it's a hard rule, but like the general rule is like you'll only get one a year. So if you got funded for this particular collaborative summit, you wouldn't necessarily get funding for the next one. Is irrespective of which project you're from, that's just the general rule.
Yeah, it's not here, I think. Let's see. It was there before.
Do we need to discuss about the budget at this meeting, or should we just like?
No, I think we can go ahead I think we can go ahead and confirm it. I just wanted to. I see a lot of people saying that they need the funds. Okay, so I am flagging it. Okay, in that regard, that was my. That was the only bit. Okay, that I wanted to clarify. Before going forward with it, is that it's a lot of people are can travel but require funding. Okay, this is the this is it. Okay, that's it. Frankly, I don't think we need to discuss it now. I think I can take an action and ask. We can ask Ben and Robin. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can discuss in the next meeting or just give them a heads up about the influx of requests
Yeah.
and our impression about how much
Yeah.
would be needed.
Like what I'm saying is, at some point, the CPC or the people, or the rest of the group might say, okay, we have, I don't know, 10 requests asking for 2,000 each. Okay. And says we can only approve 5. Who do we approve? Okay. I'm just putting it in another way. Okay.
Right, we kind of stopped the sharing, but I think we'll need 4 requests lower than 500 and then 8 requests lower than 2,000.
Yeah.
And then 1 and 2 under let me share again. It's difficult to. We do have some numbers. Not sure if you can see this, but here are the numbers. I think 3 of the zeros are not coming actually, so invalid. So 12 will be coming even without budget. And then 4 under 500, 2 under 1,000, and 8 under 2,000. So not that much actually, I guess.
Well, it's if they ask to 2,000 is for the 2,000s, it's heavy. Okay, it's 60K,
yes.
16K just on that. So that's the overall. These more or less make up at a big chunk of like a 20K, a third of the travel budget for the year, which it's okay. It might be okay for the CPC to allocate to us. Okay, but I'm just
Yeah, I guess we can at least inform the CPC about the estimate, and then they can probably prioritize lower budgets and then see what they can do with the higher ones.
okay. Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
It's
let me
good for me.
stop sharing.
Okay, so I think what I've written in the minutes is like general agreement, we should go ahead. Matteo just wanted to flag that there are quite a few people identifying they need travel funding. And Matteo's going to take the action to let Ben and Robin know that there may be an influx of requests, and we might need to provide some feedback as a project as to like which ones to approve or prioritize, right?
Yeah.
And the date would be, I think based on the survey results, still the date set on 1 to 2 on April would be preferable than the others.
Yeah.
There will be fewer turnout if it's on other days of that week.
Okay.
So
I'll put that in the minutes as well. The date would be April 1st and 2nd.
So are we good with 1 to 2 or? I guess we can set it as 1 to 2 April in Paris. By the way, Paulo asked in the chat whether you can oh, I see Paulo is already there. Okay. So I guess the next question is to decide where are we going to which venue are we going to use for the Commerce Summit? I'm not sure how far Sean has got, but Brian has commented in the issue about how far he's got for the Datadog office booking.
So really quickly on my side, one is still on the April 1st to have the auditorium on my side at Sanofi. It's still under discussion, but we have the 2 and the 4th. So even if we are moving to have the 1 and the 2, first and second, I can still book the auditorium if other people want to stay in Paris and have a 3rd day of Collaborator Summit. You will all be welcome. I just need to book that. The earliest is the better. So yeah.
Yeah, and I do notice that we'll have one more people coming. I suppose they're like a Datadog employee if they are if we are hosting at Datadog. So I guess like personally, my impression is that Brian has got a bit further away, and maybe the office would look a bit work a bit better for the commercial summit format, even though I don't know how it looks. Is it some kind of like a round table or like with tables, or is it some kind of auditorium kind of layout?
So what the room that I have booked, it's the largest room in the Paris office. It's 40 people typically. Typically also classroom style, but it can also be reconfigured for whatever else makes sense. And if that's not enough space, we also have the ability to use other rooms for breakout rooms if that's necessary. But those would need to be booked separately, and I have not done that yet.
So will there be tables?
We can make that happen.
Yeah, that the question is the table. Like my concern with the auditorium that John has that I've seen. Okay, it's a fantastic space. Okay, for presentations. But if people want to keep their laptop open, they will keep their laptop open on their legs.
Oh, no. Don't worry about that. Each of the I've been in this room quite a bit. The by defaults, the classroom table the desks, basically they're chairs with desks attached.
Yeah, okay. So that's the difference between the auditorium that I've seen is if you confirm that is that, right, John?
Yep, this one.
Okay.
But if we want actual tables, like for breakout sessions or something like that, that's something we could probably arrange. I haven't asked about that. And again, if we want to use like other meeting rooms as breakout rooms, that's totally possible too.
Yeah, it has been useful to have like another, at least one other breakout room so we could have a couple parallel sessions sometimes.
I think for the turnout that we're expecting, which will be probably at least 20 from the survey results, even though I think in my experience, the last time we had like more or less certain that at least 15 people are coming, and then we ended up with 20 something. So usually there will be some people who show up without show up that they heard it from the grapevine and then shut up, which is okay. But so I guess for this one, there will be probably like 30-ish people. If there is interest, we could arrange a breakout. But I also heard from other people that having multiple tracks can make it harder to follow, because if you have a conflict, then people will not be able to show up at both places at the same time. So I guess 30-ish people is not high enough to do a breakout, to justify a breakout. That's my impression.
It sometimes just depends on like some sessions are very like say work group specific, and so like you might get a couple of those going the same time. But I do agree that like for a lot of it you want to have
frankly
people all together.
From my point of view, it really depends on what's the layout of the office. Okay, especially because if somebody if it's a very security guarded, like it was Bloomberg, okay, then where you could not even step out without being watched, okay, then having a second room might be helpful. If it's just even if it's just for people having a small chat, Okay, like we need to chat about something, we go in the other room. Okay, we don't. I'm not saying we should use it for session. It might just be helpful just to have a little bit of overflow. But it really depends on how tight is the security at the Datadog office.
So let me color that in a little bit. So yes, the security will be relatively tight. If anybody is anywhere else in the building apart from the room, a Datadog employee is going to have to escort them. That's not a big deal. There's bathrooms right outside the
Okay.
rooms, so like that won't. Nobody needs to be escorted to go to the bathroom. But for the purposes of breakouts and things like that, it's also worth noting that the room itself basically borders on two rather large terraces that are the only way you can get to them is through that room. That time of year, it'll probably be fine to have at least conversations outside. So there's that. And then again, if we want to do breakout rooms, we can make that happen too.
Okay. Perfect.
Oh, sorry. So I guess our conclusion is that the Datadog office will be preferable because of tables. And then not sure about breakouts yet. Do people feel strongly about having breakouts or not having breakouts?
Is that something we need to know right away?
I guess what we can do at this point is probably like book the room for breakout, and then we call for sessions, and then see if breakout is needed based on the sessions.
So I guess like the proposals will go to the Datadog location. Any concerns with that? Everybody agreed? And as mentioned in the chat, obviously thanks to everybody, both Brian and Jean, for lining up possibilities, because it's great to have multiple options.
Yeah, no, thanks for offering to host the summit.
Yep. Quickly, do we want to have something on the 4th also, or I can remove the booking on my side?
I think 2 days were usually people tend to be filtering off by then already, right?
It's also worth noting that on April 3rd, there will be node.js in Paris. So I expect some people will be there. Not sure how many people will be up to hanging around after the summit.
So I think I'm hearing, Jean, we probably don't need the 4th. Is that?
Yep, sounds like.
Okay. Okay, any other things we should chat about on the summit? Okay, if not, sorry, go ahead.
The only thing that I'd add is that the soonest we can get numbers, the better, obviously, for things like catering, but that's it.
Yeah, I think that like I think for the survey, I'd expect there might be some more. Like I still haven't figured out if I can get travel funding. If I can, I'd plan to be there. There might be some other people in there because it was kind of over the holiday, a little bit of the holiday time when the survey went out.
Like at what point do we need like a close enough number for the catering?
That I don't know. I'm gonna need to look into that.
I expect there will be some leeway. Like you probably don't need the number like months ahead, but at least I guess a few weeks would be necessary. We can probably check around, I guess, sometime in March, maybe end of February, when people have booked flights and then sending the request for travel funds, and then we'll have like a clear number of things.
Yeah, maybe Brian, you can give us a deadline that you need to know by.
Um,
John?
Yes, in Dublin, after the Collaborator Summit, we also had a meetup and with the local community. Do we also want to have that in Paris? I'm hosting a monthly meetup in Paris near our office, so really close. Would be great to have all the people that want to jump in, come, or anything else. That way, also the local community would be able to meet a lot more people from the Node.js community.
Yeah, this sounds like a good idea. Should we do that in the Sanofi office, or are they close together? That's my question. Are they close to the Datadog office? I guess like if they are like not too far away, it's fine to like move from one office to the other office after dinner or something to like have some kind of a night evening meetup. But I also have no idea about how Paris transportation works to know how far away they are from each other. So
So it's not that far away. Would be an 18-minute ride on the subway ish. So let's say 20 minutes.
it sounds like a good idea.
So yeah. So on my side, I know I can host it, not an issue. I don't know for Brian if it's something also possible in the Datadog office.
Yeah, for an evening event, I'd have to go through a whole nother request process. So that would be a little bit more difficult for me.
So
Yeah,
I didn't.
we
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
we have a plan, but go ahead, please.
No, I was saying I didn't check for a night event, but I can add that and ask on the team that organize events and stuff like that if they can host us for the night. If it's not in a big auditorium, which is nice, Matteo saw it. I think Rafael also. We can also do it on our other offices that is just across the road, so a bit more small space, not a big auditorium, but we organize our normal meetup there, so it's also fine.
Yeah, I guess for the auditorium, we can probably do some kind of outreach talks to the local community, or like either that or just hallway chats, or like just like hanging out would be cool to communicate and hang out with people.
Okay, so that sounds like something though that we can sort of figure out as a follow-on. Anything else on this one we should talk about today before we move on to other issues?
I guess one more thing for me. Up to this point, I've been communicating mostly with Joey for details around this. Should I continue to do that, or should I bring it to this group some other way, or what?
I guess we can start the room in Matrix for if other people are interested in volunteering. We
Slack,
can.
probably. Join Slack, not Matrix.
Oh, so yeah, Slack. Sorry. We can start a room and talk about the logistics.
Yeah, usually we have like at least an issue in the Collaborator Summit repo and
All right, sounds good.
okay. So the next one we want to quickly cover was submit application for the GitHub Secure Open Source Fund. That I think has been mentioned before. GitHub is providing a program where projects can get 10K for participating. The OpenJS partner, foundation partnered with them in terms of all the OpenJS projects should be kind of pre-approved. But we still do need to submit an application. It does say that it was closed, like the application's closed yesterday or something, but it's extended for the OpenJS projects, but we still need to go ahead and actually make the application. I see Joey has her hand up.
Yeah, just a quick point of order. Do we, if we're done discussing the summit, I think Sean and Brian are welcome to stay with us, but if you have other business to attend to, feel free to jump out.
Yep.
And thanks for helping us organizing the summit.
Thanks. So in terms of, I don't know if anybody's, up to date on the program and has thoughts on us submitting an application. There has been, I think there was an issue. I forget, maybe there was already an issue. I opened the new issue because we actually, fairly timely, we need to submit. There's been some discussions of like who might actually participate. It does require somebody from the project, the maintainer from the project, to participate in some of the training and do some, reports later on. I know Raphael mentioned that, like, as our security lead, maybe it would make sense for him to do that. I'm not sure if we need to figure that out for the actual submission, but we will need to figure that out. My personal take is it's, I always complain that bigger companies and so forth should be like providing funds to help projects do the security work they'd like. So I think we should take advantage of this and, and get the money either into the project so we can spend it on, things we think are appropriate, or to one of our collaborators, depending on what makes sense.
Have a look at application questions, and it seems like we have to provide concrete names.
Yeah, I think that may be because like the funding could go directly to an individual. I think we should also have the option from the town hall. The discussion was we could, for example, ask that the funds go into our we already have a Linux Foundation crowdfunding account for our security bounties. So maybe we could have it go into there and then spend it, later on as we. Theo has his hand up though.
I think it goes straight into the GitHub sponsor. So as part of the program,
Okay.
is it goes into a GitHub sponsor. We need to open the GitHub sponsor. We already agreed on opening the GitHub sponsor, so that's not a problem.
Right.
And that will go into a dedicated budget line for Node handled by OpenJS. Okay. Once it's there, okay, that can be put inside in the LFX crowdfunding if they want to, or they can just bill it. The person can just send invoices straight to.
Yeah, I think if it goes through the OpenJS funding though, they're the nice thing about the LFX crowdfunding was there was no tax. Whereas I think if it goes through the GitHub sponsors, it sounded like we would have to, if there was going to go through the foundation accounts, it would actually be like 7% less or something like that. But
well, it's 10% if it like. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's open collected at 10%. So it's yeah, but I don't think it's available.
yeah, and the Linux crowdfunding is 0. But anyway, so like I guess that's an aside. Anyway, I've got a meeting with Ben to figure out like how we create the account so that the money will flow. And
I just wonder if we can provide the security working group names so we can make it part of our activities. And instead of providing just a single name, one person to work on that, we can provide a team and we do it.
The main thing we need to have somebody who's going to commit to do the training, right? Like there's a 3-week, 5 to 7 hour training sessions or group sessions that you need to show up for.
And it needs to be the same person?
It's a team of up to 3 persons. I'm not certain, like I believe each participant has to commit to the full time though.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah. So that's a good point though, Raphael. If we could have a few people and then like I suspect they're going to be a bit flexible. I could hope that they might hope for some continuity though, but but you're right. We could potentially like pick 3 names from the security working group who are willing to show up, right? Like the question is in some cases it's meant like people will show up, but then they get the funds that were allocated, right? And the question is the people who from the security working group, could they take funds? Do they want funds, or will they just commit to show up and then we
Well,
can
it
use the
depends.
dollars
They
for
can just
whatever?
commit to show up and get the training. Okay. But my take is if something as a time commitment, they should get compensated for it.
Right.
That's my generic.
So for example, like Raphael's already funded to do this kind of work, right, for the project. So that might be an exception, but like I would agree for other people.
Yeah.
So would there be any objections, like as a proposal for what we'll do? We'll apply, we will ask the security working group for like 3 names of people who would like to commit. And then, Raphael is sort of our backstop as our security lead, and so part of the work that you do under your funded work, we could ask you to basically attend those sessions if necessary, if we don't have other people. And in that case, we would just put the funding into the project's funds. If other people who are not funded, so we're not being funded, go, we would pass the money on to them. Does that sound like a good proposal? I see a thumbs up from Raphael. Any other questions, suggestions? If not, I will put that into the issue itself and in the minutes. And Raphael, can you take the action to like check to see who the right people would be? And if we can, we'll figure that out and submit it in the next day or so.
Okay.
So I assume it'd be like you and maybe a couple more people, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I would send a message, drop a message in the secret channel, secret working group channel, and talk with some members to see if they are interested on that, and we see how it goes.
Okay, sounds good.
I do have one question because I'm actually wondering if we want to limit it to the security group or if we would want to encourage maybe also other collaborators to do it. And just because that way we might have more people like contributing in that area in the future.
A good point.
I think we could include anyone that wants to take it.
How about we, like you said, up to a team, but like for the application, could we potentially just put one person, like just put Raphael's name? And then if the money comes to the project, we can actually have other people show up and therefore we could take a little bit more time to figure out who the other people would be.
I'm just looking at the questions again.
Yeah.
So they want to have the concrete GitHub handles.
Is it a forced concrete GitHub handles, or could we actually put like one and then TBD for other members?
Unknown. It says it wants to have what are their GitHub handles? Like, are there other maintainers or contributors to this project who want to join the GitHub Secure Open Source Fund and program with you? What are their GitHub handles? So it's quite concrete. I would say it really wants to have a concrete person. I also understand why, because they probably want to have people really dedicate their time up front to it.
So I guess like I'm just trying to figure out how we do this in a timely manner, because like it's actually they've already closed the application, so it's like we've got a bit of an extension for OpenJS projects, but I don't think we can hang out for weeks without making the application. Trying to figure out how we get it submitted timely, but also give the option, like enough of an option to other collaborators, because like that's an interesting
I mean, what about just reaching out to collaborators on Slack and maybe opening an issue or pinging them in the issue, actually just and then we can ask for volunteers, but
Right.
they
So
have to decide on timely manner, and then it's just first come, first serve in a way.
and like, can we give that like a couple day deadline be enough?
Like, since it's already closed, I would not give it more than a day.
Okay. So why don't we say, okay, well, ping collaborators in the deadline and say, yes, we've agreed we're going to do this. We want to firm up the people who'll be involved. Please respond by tomorrow if you're interested, and we can kind of see if we get 100 people, we may have to figure out what to do. If we have a few people, then we can.
And we have one concrete spot, that's Raphael. So it's like 2 free spots.
Right. Okay. Any comments, suggestions, concerns with that approach?
Theoretically, everyone could individually also apply. Like, it does not have to be like a single entry, but then probably people, like I guess GitHub would ask in this case, like for specific maintainers, because we have just more than a smaller project.
And the funding is only once per project.
Mhm.
So regardless, like even if we had 3 people say show up for the training, we only get the one amount.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll do that and we'll see in a day. We can see what we have in terms of and maybe Raphael through the security working group chat, we can at least make sure people who have been involved there are aware and they can express interest as well. So. Okay, anything more we should discuss on that one? Okay, I'm going to quickly move on to the Open Collective and GitHub sponsors. I actually took that off the agenda. And as I mentioned, I have a meeting with Ben to figure out like how we actually make the applications, because I expect those are going to need like a bank account, and we've agreed we want to make that like the OpenJS bank account, and like even Open Collective, it's not clear that they'll be the fiscal host or not. So like it may be that it makes sense for the OpenJS to be the fiscal host for that. So anyway, just to say, like I've got a meeting to try and figure out the logistics of that, and so that's kind of the next step. Then I would say we only have 10 minutes. So like, is there a particular one that people think we should chat about first?
Can we talk about URL pattern?
Sure. Who added that to the agenda? Who wants to lead the discussion on that one? I guess,
I can.
yeah, go ahead.
So I opened the PR to add URL pattern, which is a WetVG spec implemented by Dino, Bon, Chrome, and so on and so forth. Maybe other browsers, but I'm not really quite sure. It's currently blocked by Meteo due to the performance of it. And yeah, Meteo, if you're here and if you want to talk about it.
Well, it's from my point of view, but not just mine, but long list of people that reported this feedback when this was first proposed. Okay, it's not great for server-side use, to the point that it's almost, I would call it, should not be used. Like it goes into JS bad parts. Okay, mostly because it's the way it's used is great. It's very simple. Okay, you specify a pattern and you execute that pattern and you can match it. However, it works in the same way Express does, which is it's in order to match a list of routes, you need to call the exact function on all the URL patterns. So in order to use these effectively, you have to use it in a tight loop. Okay. which is what Express does. Okay, this was expired by the path to regex module that Express uses, and everybody, including the maintainer of that module, believe it's a bad pattern. So, like the fundamental question is, should really we adding this here and start promoting it in a way that is useful? I frankly, the other part of the spec that were added were added by were added because of massive usage in the ecosystem. I don't think this has massive usage in the ecosystem yet, so I'm not really convinced this should be added. But if the others think that is paramount for compatibility, and for whatever reason people think that iterating in a tight loop and doing n JS, C++ calls and so on is a good thing, then I think I'm very happy to withdraw my objection. Part of this is there is also a proposal by Casonato,
Luca?
Luca Casonato from Dino, to add a your pattern list, okay, that allows significant more optimizations in on the processing of those patterns, okay, because effectively you can structure create some internal data structure that is a list of those and process and do the matching against all of them. So you can actually have massive speed up by using techniques like radix prefix tree or a lot of other things like that. I have done some benchmark on the current implementation, and Yagis have not optimized that yet. Okay, but it's the more routes are added, the slower it gets if nothing matches, which is what to be expected by this pattern. Which means it's in case what happens is that in a web server that will implement this thing will slow down for 404s significantly, okay? And these will be essentially problematic for any server that use this pattern outside. So frankly, I would not think it's a good pattern for Node.js application to use on the server. I can provide more details on the benchmark that it's not really related, but there is a big gap between what the current state of the PR versus the best performance, but also versus Express. Okay, I think there is an order of magnitude even against Express in terms of performance, but I think that can be claimed. So anyhow, this is the gist.
Yeah, Robert's hand was up next, and we are pretty much at time. So
I'll try to be quick. I think adding it doesn't necessarily mean that we are promoting it. We have a little bit of a consistency problem here because half, if not more, of the web APIs we've already added are not really good for backend and are slow. So I don't, not adding this because of that becomes kind of inconsistent with previous decisions we have made. So I don't quite see that, or the performance, or why is that different now than it has been for all the other APIs?
okay, I see. Right, Yagis has his hand in, but I think like 1 minute for Yagis, 1 minute for James, and then we may
Yes.
for discussion to the next time.
So I haven't worked on optimizing it yet, as Matthew said, at all. Right now it uses std regex, which is extremely slow compared to other alternatives. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to make it as fast as possible. But the benchmark that Matthew is mentioning is due to is using a tight loop, which basically shows the cost of serializing and deserializing data between C++ and JavaScript, which there's nothing that I can do at this point to fix it, unless we implement URL pattern list, which is another discussion. But I want to keep it out of this so that I can make a progress on this URL pattern, and after that, we can talk about adding URL pattern list or not, which is still a proposal.
James?
Can y'all hear me okay?
Okay.
Can y'all
so
hear
I
me
think-
okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to reiterate just support on the idea that yes, it's slow. Yes, it's not ideal for servers. No, I do not agree that that's a reason not to block it. We have other APIs that aren't ideal for servers either. They still land. Node isn't just used on servers. So I don't think we should over-index on one particular use case that it's not good for. And just, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to argue that this is a fast, great API, but getting started with something, we can go back and work on performance optimizing it as much as possible. That does not mean we cannot have other things that are more optimized later.
Okay, so I think at this point, maybe we leave it on the agenda and we can continue discussion in the issue and come back to it next week. Next week, we do have special and I think mostly private sessions. So I'd ask if in the issue that's created, if there's particular issues that you think are really important to discuss, we flag those up front so that we can figure out if we can fit them in addition with the discussion that we're going to have around in the private session. And otherwise, we're right at time. So I think we'll close out and thanks for everybody's time and we'll see everybody next week.